cp is a Unix command for copying files and directories. The command has three principal modes of operation, expressed by the types of arguments presented to the program for copying a file to another file, one or more files to a directory, or for copying entire directories to another directory. The utility further accepts various command line option flags to detail the operations performed. The two major specifications are POSIX-CP and GNU-CP. GNU-CP has many additional options over the POSIX version. Operating modes: CP has three principal modes of operation. These modes are inferred from the type and count of arguments presented to the program upon invocation. When the program has two arguments of path names to files, the program copies the contents of the first file to the second file, creating the second file if necessary. When the program has one or more arguments of path names of files and following those an argument of a path to a directory, then the program copies each source file to the destination directory, creating any files not already existing. When the program's arguments are the path names to two directories, CP copies all files in the source directory to the destination directory, creating any files or directories needed. This mode of operation requires an additional option flag, typically R, to indicate the recursive copying of directories. If the destination directory already exists, the source is copied into the destination, while a new directory is created if the destination does not exist. Usage: copying a file to another file. CP, fhip, source file target file. Copying file, S, to a directory. CP, fhip, source file. Target directory. Copying a directory to a directory. CPRR, fhip, source E directory. Target directory. Option flags: FA specifies removal of the target file if it cannot be opened for write operations. The removal precedes any copying performed by the CP command. HA makes the CP command follow symbolic links so that the destination has the target file rather than a symlink to the target. IA prompts you with the name of a file to be overwritten. This occurs if the target directory or target file parameter contains a file with the same name as a file specified in the source file or source directory parameter. If you enter Y or the locale's equivalent of Y, the CP command continues. Any other answer prevents the CP command from overwriting the file. The P flag preserves the following characteristics of each source path in the corresponding target: the time of the last data modification and the time of the last access, the ownership, and the file permission bits. Aurora copy directories recursively, examples, creating a copy of a file in the current directory. CP prog C prog back. This copies prog C to prog back. If the prog back file does not already exist, the CP command creates it. If it does exist, the CP command replaces its contents with the contents of the prog C file. Copy two files in the current directory into another directory. CP Jones Smith Nick clients. This copies the files Jones to Nick Jones and Smith to Nick Smith. Copy a file to a new file and preserve the modification date, time, and access control list associated with the source file. CPP Smith Smith JR. This copies the Smith file to the Smith JR file. Instead of creating the file with the current date and time stamp, the system gives the Smith JR file the same date and time as the Smith file. The Smith JR file also inherits the Smith file's access control protection. Copy a directory, including all its files and subdirectories, to another directory. CP Nick clients Nick customers. This copies the directory clients, including all its files, subdirectories, and the files in those subdirectories, to the directory customers clients. Some Unix systems behave differently in this mode, depending on the termination of directory paths. Using CP or Nick customers on a GNU system, it behaves as expected. However, on a BSD system, it copies all the contents of the client's directory, instead of the directory clients itself. The same happens in both GNU and BSD systems if the path of the source directory ends in OR. The copying of a file to an existing file is performed by opening the existing file in update mode, thereby preserving the file's inode, which requires write access and results in the target file retaining the permissions it had originally. Related Unix commands: cpio copy an entire directory structure from one place to another, tar create an archive of files, link system call to create a link to a file or directory, ln create a link to a file or directory, mv move a file or directory, rem remove a file or directory, and link system call to remove a file or directory, chmod change the mode on a file or directory, chown change ownership on a file or directory, chgrp change group on a file or directory, ikpa Unix to Unix copy, scp secure copy over SSH. See also, GNU Core Utilities, list of Unix programs, references.